Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Discover Mercer County Business. We're doing the podcast from Teal College today, and I'm Rod Wilt, and I am the director at Penn-Northwest Development Corporation, and we interview on this show all of the movers and shakers and newsmakers in and around Mercer County. And today we have a couple of guests in the studio. We're excited to hear about all of the goings on in Sharon, Pennsylvania. But before we do that, I want to thank some people and for helping us get this on the show up on the air today. We have Paul Coatsworth from Teal College. He is the guy that coordinates everything here at the podcast center at the Pettis Communications Center, and also Melinda Bowen-Hauk from our office at Penn-Northwest. She is our membership and she kind of does everything for us as the manager of all things, and she makes sure that I'm on time and I'm here in this chair to do this podcast and everything else we have going on at Penn-Northwest. But with that, I'm going to turn the show over to a little Q&A, and I'm very excited to have Sherris Moreira and Courtney Cilli with us in studio today to talk about all things the City of Sharon. So welcome, you guys. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I want to start with Sherris real quick, because when I first took this job, I met with you because you were a very dynamic leader with the chamber, the Shenango Valley Chamber, but it was right in the middle of COVID and all that stuff. So tell us a little bit, Sherris, about how you got involved in community service and then moving from the chamber to working with the City of Sharon now.
It's funny. The story actually really starts in 2016. So I love this area. I was living in Pittsburgh, in tourism and marketing, and but also very much part of community redevelopment, because Pittsburgh was going through a lot of that, and still is. And then there's a lot of reasons. A lot of people come back to this area, family, and my mom have an elderly mother, and I realized she needed more support, and my family who were helping her needed that. And my first thought was, oh my God, there's nothing. Like, there's no jobs, there's nothing. What am I going to work? What am I going to do? And within sending out just 4 resumes, each one of them reached out to me, and I went, okay, something's different here, And there was a narrative with, smaller Rust Belt areas and Rust Belt areas in general, that there's no jobs, no this, no that. And the reality is there's a lot of jobs, we just need more people. So that was very eye-opening to me, that the way that happened. So then I started with the chamber, and then I was there for several years, and that's how I met Courtney. And through a lot of volunteer opportunities. Courtney is just very much involved in volunteering, and with the chamber we try to create those opportunities. So we just kept running into each other and realized that we were cut from the same cloth, And then I went for a time with the Honolulu, because I wanted to be an entrepreneurial company, woman-owned tech, really cool. And it was a really great experience, helped me understand how much more support our entrepreneurial business community needs and our tech community needs in Mercer County. And then this opportunity opened up for me. Bob Fiskus approached me in November of 2021 and said, look, we have these funds and we need to really make a difference. If we don't, we could fumble the ball, and we don't want to fumble the ball when it comes to the City of Sharon. This could be our opportunity. So I thought about it, and then I was like, well, I'm not doing this alone. So I called on my friend, who also is quite volunteer and just has a lot of impact in the community. And interesting enough, neither one of us are from Sharon, but we really have a passion for Sharon.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that, because where did you grow up, Sherris? I'm not sure if I know this part of your story, actually. So
I was actually born in Brooklyn, and then at a young age my parents split up, so I spent my years in being raised in Wilmington and Manhattan, the Queens area of New York. So it was a very interesting childhood, Amish country to the city. And
wow, that is cool.
Right, and then I ended up working at the Herald for a few years and was in media and stuff, so I was familiar with the Valley. But it's a different, I wasn't as familiar, because when you're in a news media, you don't want to get too connected because you want to stay objective. So when I came back, it was a whole different way of connecting.
No, that's interesting. And Courtney, you have a little different story, but still a homegrown story.
Yes.
Homegrown Mercer County.
Yes.
So you're a Greenville girl. I'm a Greenville guy. Yep. So
I said, I remember seeing your name growing up when you were running for something, and I just, it was one of the first
I'm still running. I'm just not running for office,
yeah,
Courtney.
But I remember seeing your signs, and I'd be like, Wilt. It was one of the first, things that I remember reading, so.
So you, Greenville schools, and then what where did your life head after graduation?
So I went to community college for hospitality management. I knew I wanted to be in the hotels. I wanted to be an event planner. Around here, that wasn't really a thing, like event planning with hotels, but still pursued it. And then when I was done with school, the Hampton Inn in West Middlesex was just being built. And I had a connection there, so I started working there. I opened it, actually. So we started working before it was even open. So I opened it and just worked my way up within the company. So I went from just being on the front desk to being the sales manager to also being the AGM as well. And then when COVID hit and I got married and stuff like that, it was the hospitality business. It's difficult with family, so because I was on call 24/7 and literally always just running back and forth. So I went and worked for my father-in-law for a little bit during COVID to help him. He owns his own heating and cooling company. So I did that for a little while, and then Sherris reached out to me and said, this opportunity is here for us. And so I volunteered with Sharon for many years through the hotel. I did the leadership program, and then I also ran Small Business Saturday with Laura Ackley for many years, and then I kind of took it over. And then when COVID hit, we kind of weren't able to do what we used to do. So that's how Sherris and I really got to know each other, was Small Business Saturday. And then I would just volunteer for literally everything she would throw my way. She'd be like, I need you here. So, so she knew my work ethic, and like I said, we work wonderfully together, so I couldn't imagine.
But Courtney, you're talking about something you're kind of glossing over, but I want to focus on it because one of the things we're trying to do with our homegrown initiative at Penn-Northwest is really connect more young people with careers and their community, but it's a completely volunteer-run organization. So where did that spirit of volunteerism kind of well up in you? Where did that come from?
I mean, I think for me personally, I just loved doing it. Like, I loved being involved. I loved meeting people. So being in hospitality, obviously, I had people through the door. I mean, I would make friends with some of my guests, like, because I just love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. Like, I just love talking to people. So when the volunteer opportunities, like, I met so many people. And Sharon was just very specific. It was just the opportunity that I had. But everyone there is so welcoming. Like, anything that I got involved in, people were just so welcoming and appreciative, and I made those connections to where I was when I was running Small Business Saturday. I could call on any one of them and they would literally be like, we'll be right there. So I think that's really what kept me going with volunteering with Sharon, is just the acceptance and the community feel.
See, I think that's important because, one of the things that attracted me to this job a couple of years ago is the connections in the community that I had made as a state legislator, state representative that you referred to, but also the tremendous opportunity that existed to really take what was left of our community after all of the job loss and the 30% population drop in the last 30 years and all these things that we were faced with. But I looked around and I'm looking at Melinda right now in the studio because we kind of coined this phrase that we've got the right people in the right seats at the right time right now to go fast. Mm-hmm. And it was Republicans, it was Democrats, it was people of color, it was old white guys like me, it was, this vibrant women-owned business community, our educators, our bank, everyone was like, our time is now.
Mm-hmm. We're really lucky, actually, because a lot of places are not having that. And I have been, when I was with the chamber, I heard it a lot where they would say, you're so lucky in the Valley because your leaders all work together and they all respect each other, and they try to move things forward. They try not to be barriers but bridges.
And out of that came opportunity because somehow the way the math worked and the way things went, when the American Rescue Plan Act money, the ARPA funds as they're called, began to trickle into the states and then out to the communities, Sharon was there and identified as a community of need. And so Sherris, you can kind of fill in our audience what happened. And Sharon ended up with $10 to $14 million.
Actually close to 15 million. Yeah, and it was one of those unexpected moments. And again, I wasn't with the city at the time, but as a chamber, I was still helping and advocating and helping a little bit behind the scenes with some of the funding ways that they were giving out funding. But the reality was, it was so unexpected, and they knew. And this is something that Bob, I remember when I met with Bob Fiskus, the city manager. He knew that if they mess this up, like, this is a chance they're not going to get again. So they really wanted to make a difference, and they really wanted to do it right. And they, wanted to have a team in place that could really help make the change or be part of making the change. Like, honestly, there's already been change makers going on for years in Sharon. We just get to help coordinate and help maybe get the word out more and help people feel like they can be part of it. But yeah, it's a change maker, but only if it's done right.
Yeah, and it's been great to collaborate. So in our business, as the economic development agency of the county, we're called on to provide assistance and to jump in. And so we were able to, through the COVID hospitality relief program, the CHIRP funds, Melinda and me and a few interns and some others, drove those dollars out all through the county. But it really got us involved in the COVID recovery and being part of the grant administration piece and working with communities. So when you guys started with your small business portion of those funds, it was a lot of fun to work with and help some of those companies that have really been sustained through those funds. So let's talk about that first of all. The ability and then we'll talk about the new stuff coming. Yeah, sure. But what have been some of those success stories that you two have seen through the last couple of years where these funds have really been the bridge between a really rough time to now getting our sea legs back underneath and moving forward? Do you have some of those that come to mind?
Yeah, so because that was right when I started, when that was all coming out there, and it really helped a lot of our longtime businesses just have that extra little bridge funding to keep them moving forward. They obviously were still in business, hanging in there, but when they had the opportunity to get some funding to help them kind of take, just keep not just surviving but thriving. So many of them have moved into that thriving place, which is really great to see. A lot of our smaller businesses, a lot of our automotive businesses, not necessarily the retail ones, but a lot of our smaller businesses that have just been there for years doing the work unsung, unseen, and for them to be able to get a portion of the money was a big deal for them.
No, that's great. That's great. And Courtney, again, we're meeting with, before I move on, we're meeting with Sherris Moreira, who's the, the director of downtown development, and Courtney Cilli, who does all the events. So you've been busy planning a bunch of stuff now that the weather is here.
Yes.
So out of kind of this regeneration of funding streams and a lot of money coming into the city, you've been there to really work on making Sharon a destination and also a pretty cool place to live.
Yeah, I agree. When I started, I really wanted to focus on everything that was already existing because, Sharon already had, very prominent events already going on, Waterfire, the car show. We also had a farmer's market that is a huge thing to have in a city. So I really wanted to just focus on helping with those, just volunteering, again, my time to, really kind of see how they work and, what last year I had never been to the car show, the Father's Day car show. I've never been to it. I never really had a reason to. I was there from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. and it was insane, like the amount of people that came. So like I said, just getting involved in what already was staple events in the city, and then how can we grow more events and still bring people down. So one of the main things that I wanted to focus on was the farmers market, making it more of like a destination. So including the farmers, obviously, but also adding other vendors to it, like homemade vendors and stuff like that, different types of produce, stuff like that. We also added music and food trucks and stuff like that. So last year was one of their best years that they've had, and the farmers market's been there, I think, since 1920. I think Janice told me.
Oh, wow.
So, just building those. We also added the fireworks celebration that we did last year, because we saw that, because Buell Park was no longer doing fireworks any longer, nobody really did any in the valley. So we wanted to, again, create a family-friendly event to bring people downtown and to show people that, this place, there's a lot going on, and, we can have fun doing it as well.
Well, you mentioned the Father's Day car show, but so we know that's on Father's Day, but the farmers market, when does it start, or is it year round? Tell us a little bit about that. And
yeah.
Where is it?
So
Yep.
Okay. So last year it was in the LTI parking lot, right? It was the old Rosemont LTI. I don't know the specifics of how you say that, but it was right by the city building. So we did it in their parking lot. And we actually just made the decision to move to the parking lot right beside Quaker Steak and Lube. So it's a little bit bigger, a lot more parking, because we kind of outgrew that space a little bit, just with bringing as many people in. We're still partnering with LTI, and they're still, going to be heavily involved. Just we needed a bigger location. So, yes.
So that's down by the 3 by the River parking lot area, what we used to call 3 by the River back in. I'm showing my age. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, the new roundabout. There you go.
Yes.
And so that happens when?
So it's actually going to start June 17th. So we're moving it up 2 weeks. They used to start in July and run through October. So we decided to add on 2 extra weeks because there is produce that can be sold during that time. So we're going to start June 17th and run to the end of October, which would be, I think, October 28th or 27th, something like that. So it's a pretty long farmers market, and it's every Wednesday from 3:30 to 6:30. We're doing 6:30. And then Saturday mornings from 8 to 1.
So it's actually twice a week.
Yep.
You got the Wednesday, late afternoon, evening, and then into Saturday.
Yep.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then talk a little bit while we're on events, and then I want to go back to some of the business startups and things that are happening in and around Sharon from a housing perspective as well. But talk a little bit about the water fire. There's 2 water fires, and so seems like you're always working on that, I would imagine.
Yeah, so Waterfire is its own organization. So it is put on in the city and supported by the city, but definitely run with their organization. I did help out last year. I was pregnant last year, so I was kind of limited as to what I could do. But I did help, build the braziers and stuff like that. And it was actually really cool to be involved in that part of it, because I've been to Waterfire multiple times. You see the event, but you actually don't see what goes on behind the scenes, and building those braziers, and what a team effort it was actually being there and seeing how many volunteers and just the process of building. So I got to see kind of the stuff before Waterfire. Again, I was pregnant and didn't go to the Waterfire, so it was really warm. So, but yeah, so obviously the city supports that event 100%, and any way that we can help, we help promote it on Facebook, and just getting connections, getting media, stuff like that to it. So that's kind of our involvement in it.
And to add in a little bit about events, sometimes people go, how do events have anything to do with economic development? But the reality is, one of the things that Sharon deals with is a concern or an issue with people a perception issue, and so can we go down there? Can we feel safe? Can we feel like it's a great place to hang out? Having these kind of events, the really amazing ones like the St. Patrick's Day parade that we just put on, or the fireworks event, or Small Business Saturday, it helps people kind of break through that old school perception that's not true. It is safe to be in downtown Sharon, but we need those events help people come down with their families and kind of break that down.
Well, and I think there's a couple of things going on. Number one, it's a new day across the county,
Yes.
and we all feed off of each other. And I think that when we go to work every day, I say there's things that keep us up at night and get us out of bed in the morning. And for us at the Economic Development Agency, it's all about how do we change and shift this narrative. And that's where I say we're all in this together. If we can agree on one thing, let's just focus on that and build on that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm sure we'll find a bunch of other things to agree on as well. So when you look at the City of Sharon today, Sherris, tell us some of those keystone projects that are going on, led by the city, but also private development. And what are some of the things that you're excited about from that economic development standpoint?
Sure. Obviously, 2 are our biggest developers. We're really lucky to have 2 champions, Karen Winter and the family, and then Jim Landino and his family, and their jobs and what they bring to the community. With Karen Winter, they're working on the landing and the aquaponics project, and that's going to be a big deal. That's going to tie in with the farmer market, but it's also just reinvention of a historic building that is going to bring in all kind of business, all kind of attention to the area. And then Jim Landino with what he's doing, transforming with his transformer business, JCL Energy, but also buying buildings and then trying to get them into the hands of people who will turn them into restaurants or really cool places to come visit. For example, Nova Destination, they're going to be in one of the locations and bringing all kind of different things, all kind of change. So we're really lucky to have those champions right out the gate. But again, we're working on things that are related to restaurant, retail, recreation, and riverfront. And again, sometimes people say, well, what does that have to do with economic development? But we're really learning and realizing that quality of life and quality of place is key to economic development. We're not going to attract business unless we have the way to attract people.
Yeah, we're living in this new reality where we have more jobs than people. So we had a couple of interviews earlier today. We talked a lot about corporate culture and becoming a place where people love to come to work, because sometimes it's not the most fun thing to do. But outside of that, we're creating a culture within the county where it is a cool place to come and hang out. Your dollar goes a lot further. So you're focused, it sounds to me, Sherris, a lot on the restaurant recreation, but there's a big project going on right now on the waterfront, and we're recording here in early April. But a long-standing building is coming down. And
Yes.
what's the plan for that site, the old Huntington Bank building and whatever they called it before then, the F&M Bank building and whatever it was?
Bank building, correct, yeah. So that's going to be a key component of changing how we view the riverfront. Really the Shenango River has cut through the City of Sharon. We've just ignored it. It's just been there. We don't really pay attention to it. We just drive over to other bridges. And we really want to connect our community to the riverfront. It's such a big deal. You go to other cities and they are doing so many cool revitalization. I mean, Pittsburgh's a perfect example. There's so many cool things going on right on the riverfront. And we just ignore that we have this. So, we're not only with the Huntington Bank building, that kicks that off, but we're also going after $25 million grants through the federal government to change the whole look of our whole riverfront area. And so we really realize that again ties into that quality of life. People can walk by the river and do events by the river, which we're already discussing, and we have events coming up now. We know we have a space to spread out right on the riverfront. And it just connects people, gets people excited, and it gets them into Sharon.
So that is the plan for that site, is to make it more of a community space, open space with a view and right there on. Yeah, okay.
And we're hoping for like maybe a fitness area or an area where you can like an amphitheater that goes down to the river. So there's some really cool plans in store for this. So yeah.
And then as it goes to the riverfront, also over by Quaker Steak and Lube, that whole site there is now, there is the Mose River Walk, which is super cool. If people haven't been on that's definitely worth doing.
Worth a visit.
Yeah.
But it's also going to expand across the street so that the people will be able to walk all the way around the 3 bridges in downtown Sharon. So they walk their dogs, take a walk during lunch. But then the Quaker Steak and Lube is also, they got funding for an event center that's right near the riverfront as well. So that's going to open things up where we can now do more events right in the downtown. They have a great location already. And, we're also talking about across the street from Quaker Steak, a ballpark. So now we have a place where families can come and watch their kids play ball, and then they can go to one of the many restaurants that are downtown or new ones coming. And so really, again, just trying to speak to that quality of life component.
And then part of that quality of life question is, housing. We hear it everywhere we go. We have a outdated housing stock. We have older houses, but some of them are opportunities for renovation. But I know up here where we're broadcasting at Teal at the Pettis Communications Center, there's a big focus on getting people moving back down into town. So has that been a key component of the strategy as well in Sharon?
Yeah, so a couple different things going on. Obviously, there's a lot. There's been over 300 demolitions of just old housing stock that needs to go. So we're right-sizing our city, but also cleaning up blight. And then the housing market has been a total positive. It's been very good for our community because people are looking to buy houses. Well, the landlords, maybe not necessarily always the great landlords, are off landing their housing into the community. So families are buying it. So we're getting more families to buy in some of the areas that maybe they wouldn't have looked at a few years ago. But on top of it, I was just on the phone with Jim Landino on the way here, and we're talking about more apartments because, the younger generation, they're not necessarily ready to buy a house right out the gate. So how do we attract them? We have to have more really cool rentable spaces. We're also working with some businesses in downtown who are putting in some Airbnbs on their second floor because our second floors aren't always getting used. Well, now if we have some Airbnbs and people can come and spend the night or spend the weekend or do weddings and then maybe they rent them out as apartments too. So we're really aware that housing is a key component to all the change. We want people here.
And I'm going to ask you both this question, but we have a Commonwealth campus of Penn State University in the city of Sharon, and so how do you capture those young people? Because as part of our homegrown initiative, as people come in to our colleges, maybe from out of town, get a great education, maybe play a sport, we've got to grab them and get them hooked into a job here as quickly as we can. So what has been the outreach between the city and the university at this point?
I'm going to speak to one thing and then I'm going to send it over to Courtney. But one of the things, just by bringing down the Huntington Bank building, we have now connected Penn State campus to Main Street, to State Street, because it was hidden. So people didn't even know it was there. And now you can see the campus very well.
Good point, yes.
So that was just something as perception again. But I know that, Courtney can speak more to some of the involvement.
Yeah, so basically one of my best friends works there in the student, I don't know what her title is, but she works with the students, and just meeting with her and seeing how they can get involved or inviting them down to places. Sometimes people need to feel included. So by just letting them know what's going on and inviting them to come, asking for volunteers, just volunteer your time with us. And then also when we did our St. Patrick's Day parade, we did it right in front. We started in front of Penn State Shenango. So the students were around and, we were able to get them involved in that way as well. So
Yeah, they did a float and
Yeah.
everything. But the thing is, people don't. One of the things I think sometimes communities miss is that when you have a college there, obviously they want to get involved for their students' sake, but also the community should be working with the college as well, because that's how you want to keep the students population not only there but growing. So it's we really see that they are a very valuable partner to work. We work with Penn State on a lot of different levels because we also have the launch box getting ready to launch, and that's with Penn State, and it's exciting to see this campus really start to grow and thrive as they add more sports, etc. And yeah, I mean, it would be a wonderful thing to be. We want to be a college town. That's important. So the partnership is very important.
Yeah, and I think you and the town of Greenville and town of Grove City have all that in common. Is how do we take these great in Wilmington? We got to always loop around that Lawrence County line to get them involved in the conversation. Yeah, it'll get them involved in the conversation for sure. But
they're dealing with the same things. You're right, all of them. How do we connect better to our community so that our students want to come here?
And I noticed in the list of projects that the city has supported that the launch box was part of that. So can you give us a little bit of information about what the launch box is and what the community can see from it?
Yeah, so that's part of Penn State in general, their Invent Penn State. That is one of the things that they do to work with different entrepreneurial, to help promote that entrepreneurial community. And so the different campuses, as well as Penn State Maine, this is a big initiative of theirs. So it's really exciting that we have it now. It's going to be in Sharon. And the partnership with the City of Sharon is, we obviously gave them some funding, I think $1 million in funding. And so that not only will it be something that's helpful for all businesses in Mercer County, but Sharon businesses in particular will have access to funding for grants because the City of Sharon partnered with it to get this here. So we're very excited. We can't wait for the launch.
Yeah, that's great. I know sitting at the East Center in Hermitage that there's just a whole buzz about the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the county and getting a shot in the arm. And of course, at Penn-Northwest, we're trying to support that through the Mercer County Innovation Fund, and we're still driving out how to exactly do that. But we have some companies that seem to be moving towards some seed funding and maybe some advanced stages of funding. So we're excited about that.
Yeah,
so.
And that's I'm glad. I literally talked to someone this morning about that fund, because we need to have innovative funds that don't just stick with this old school way of doing stuff, but can actually fund some of these new kind of tech and remote kind of work opportunities.
Yeah, so before we cut out of here, because our time's getting short, we're sitting here in early 2023. So what does Sharon, Pennsylvania, and Mercer County look like in 2025 or even 2030? Because we all have to have these big, hairy, audacious goals for what we're doing. So, Courtney, I'll start with you. What do you see the future for the county?
Just from my perspective and what I actually do with my stuff, is just, thriving events, not, and it doesn't have to be big events. It doesn't have to be, 10,000 people are coming down. Even just, like I said, the farmer's market and little things like that, just thriving and people buzzing around the city, basically, like, especially on a Saturday morning with the farmer's market, going out to, get brunch and then go shopping. We just want to see that it's an actual thriving downtown and people just walking everywhere. Like, that's what I envision whenever I see it in a couple of years. So
The good news is that's actually happening.
yes.
The seeds of that you're already starting to see sprout a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, Sherris, from you come to this area, the county, the city, from, as you said, from the media perspective initially, and then being a New Yorker coming to small town USA. But now you're vested here and you're invested here. Where do you see us a few years from now?
I think it's going to be completely different, and it's not. Sharon. Of course, speaking to Sharon, I feel like it's going to happen this year. To be honest, the restaurants are coming, so the changes in the riverfront's happening. So the start is it's going to be a big change this year, this summer. But I do hope in the next few years, people are going to come back, come visit their families, and go, what the heck? And I mean, I know this is going to be happening not just Sharon, Hermitage, Grove City, Greenville. We're seeing change. We're realizing that things have to change and grow, and that's a good thing. And so I feel like in the next 3 to 5 years, people are going to come back here and go, what? Like, it's so different, and I'm glad. I'm excited to see that.
Well, we appreciate everything you guys are doing. I tell you, it's one of the interesting things about my job is, I've had an opportunity in my lifetime to do some things, but building a community is something that very few of us have a real opportunity to do. And I'm so excited about the reality that we share countywide and in the city of Sharon. Thank you. Thank you both for coming on our program today. Good seeing you guys. And I'm going to close it down here. It's hard to believe that was a fast 30 minutes. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in again to another edition of Discover Mercer County Business, brought to you by the Pettis Communications Center here at on the campus of Teal College. I'm Rod Wilt with Penn-Northwest Development Corporation. Again, want to thank Paul Coatsworth here at the college for his expertise and getting us up on the air, and of course Melinda from our office who makes sure that everything comes off without a hitch. And we want to thank our guests again, Sherris Moreira from the City of Sharon and Courtney Cilli, both out there making it happen. And we'll see you again next time on Discover Mercer County Business. Thanks for watching.